So what happened?
Oh wow, I don't know how that happened.
I don't know, man.
Six World Cups, 1987 Allan Border's team, 1999 Steve Waugh's team, 2003 Ricky Ponting's captain's knock against India, or 2007 Adam Gilchrist's squash ball innings, which squashed the Sri Lankans in the West Indies, to 2015 dreamy farewell to Michael Clarke, and then 2023 19 November Travis Head, who became the star in India. Well, the list is long, and there's a unique love affair of Australians with the World Cup. What are those ingredients they use which constantly deliver champions? Is it their Sheffield Shield cricket? Or is their Australianism, their attitude? Well, to discuss all of this, I have an Aussie on the show today, Regan Spear, who hosts a show called Sports Wrap for DR1 and Sunday Debrief Podcast. He's from Perth, Australia, the home of one of the toughest cricket pitches in the world of cricket. Today is going to be fun because we are discussing everything about Australian cricket. So let's see how he faces the question, which one he's going to dodge or which one he's going to play out of the park. Let's jump straight away.
So yeah, how are you doing? How's everything?
Yeah, I'm going well. Yeah, going good, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I think we just start.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we start, I just want to know about you, man, first, your work as a podcaster, how much I know about you, your Sunday Debrief Podcast and everything. Just love to know about you, mate, first.
No worries. Okay, so I am 19 years old, living in Perth, Australia. I'm currently halfway through my journalism course at Curtin University, so I'm a year and a half in a 3-year course. I love my sport, Aussie rules footy, obviously cricket, which we'll be talking about today. Love and play basketball as well. And I just thought, I love playing and watching all these sports. Why not do something that involves talking about sports? And I love having my own opinion on sort of stuff as well and getting that out there to the world. So I'm loving doing journalism stuff. I have a podcast myself called the DRN1 Sports Wrap, which I do every Monday night. Talk about all of the sports on there. And yeah, I'm just loving getting into sport, and I'm sure it'll be great chatting to you today.
And you were also the part of a Sunday Debrief podcast, right? Sunday Debrief?
Yes, that's correct. So that is another podcast I'm doing with a friend, also in my journalism course. That one isn't really sport related at all. That one's more of a audience-based podcast. So people send stuff in. It can be about literally anything, and we just talk about it and have a chat about it. So that one's more of an interactive podcast.
That was nice. And that was about all the accessories, everything, right? Apart from sports as well. That Sunday Debrief one.
Yes, correct. Literally, yep, Sunday Debrief. Whatever you want to ask, send it into the Sunday Debrief and we'll debrief it for you, essentially.
But today we will ask cricket only. Because we're just here to discuss cricket games, right? Dude, always for me, because when I was growing up, and just what I just saw that yellow jersey all around, winning matches and doing a lot of good stuff, right? What is with the Australian domestic structure? Because I know about Sheffield Shield, right? Sheffield Shield cricket that they play over there. And obviously, this is the domestic structure which you follow. In India, we have Ranji Trophy teams, which we have 28, 29 teams, compete with each other. And then the players which we get, we will select for the Indian team. What is about Sheffield Shield? I just want to know from you, man.
Yeah, so the Sheffield Shield is probably, I'm guessing, quite similar but different in terms of Australian domestic cricket and India. So it's a part of all the states in Australia. So that's Western Australia, South Australia, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and Tasmania. And the ACT isn't included in the men's side for the Sheffield Shield, but it is included in the Women's National Cricket League or the WNCL. So the Sheffield Shield is essentially like longer cricket formats. So 4-day cricket where you see this young talent come out and it's all in competitive spirit. All states and sides are very competitive. It's good to see because most of the time when the Sheffield Shield is on, the national side is usually playing. So you don't often see, players like Pat Cummins or your Nick Starks or your Steve Smith playing for their state much anymore. Probably about 5-6 years ago, maybe even more, they were more commonly playing for their state. So these days you see a lot of young, talented cricketers playing through the Sheffield Shield, and we've got the Marsh One Day Cup as well, which is essentially the same thing, but one day. So the tournament is a bit split off. There's usually not much scheduling in terms of the actual cricketing aspect. There's maybe, 4 or 5 rounds of the longer format in the Sheffield Shield, and then they play the Marsh One Day Cup, which goes across a certain number of weeks, and then they go back to some 4-day cricket. So it's a lot of versatility these players have to go through, but all in all, it's some good cricket being played.
And competitive cricket, right? Because only 6-7 teams were there.
Yeah, that's right. So competition for spots is very, very tight. And if you want to be making it into the Australian squad or Australian team, there needs to be a lot of runs or wickets and a lot of stats to back you up for the Australian selectors to select you.
We know that how Australia dominates world cricket, and it's a fact. Dude, what do you think about, I'm really curious because T20 is something which is new. I know it's not very old thing, right? Started in 2006, 7, and suddenly it's a boom. And you have a BBL as well. But still, if you look, they underperform in the T20I cricket. Do you think about the section that why this is the only place where Australia is somehow, I know it's a fickle tournament, but still, what's your opinion on this?
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's easy to see the split in talent in the shorter format of the game for Australia in ODIs and T20s compared to the all-in competitive test side we have. But I think over the years, the versatility in players and the player backup, say we got the bowling cartel of Stark, Cummins and Hazelwood, they are more than likely selected in the test matches, the ODI side and the T20 international side. And it honestly, I think, gets too much for the bowlers, and I think the selectors have to understand that some bowlers are more suited to the one particular format. So I think if you go and look around, the Sheffield Shield and the Big Bash, for example, you got some players who really dedicate their game on the shorter format of the game. And we've got some young and up and coming all-rounders coming up, but there's not too many pure bowlers or pure batsmen coming up behind the likes of Travis Head and Mitch Marsh, for example, who now all play all 3 formats of the game. And the player in particular that I want to highlight is a fantastic player, one of my favourite players for sure, but I'm always very critical on Pat Cummins. Obviously, new captain has done extremely well. I personally think he is the best test pace bowler in the whole world. He is an absolute star, great captain for Australia, but I think the shorter format of the game is, I wouldn't say lacking, but I don't think he sort of bowls the same between test matches, one days and T20 internationals, which is not necessarily going to work. He's a great bowler, but there's different tactics involved, different bowlers suit certain types of the game. So I think Australia hasn't really explored the lesser types, which it may be they don't want to take a risk on a young person coming through, or they just want to stick with the same sort of squad throughout all 3 formats. But that's why I think Australia in one day, especially T20s, has flipped a bit because they're playing a very similar team across all 3 formats. Where I think there is
you're right. Absolutely.
the more characters to be found.
Actually, you're right. Actually, because I remember, if you just look at the whole top tip of the world, you will find out a few things in India, Australia. The thing which you mentioned about how one squad that you have very much likely to make sure that the same team will go and play in the ODIs as well. Right? A lot of times you will see that the team which you have in Test cricket, the more often the team will definitely go in the one-day format as well, in India also. But it's not how the game usually works. Game works on the players which you actually required for the particular setup. Like in India, a lot of people are focusing on, as of now, focusing on Rinku Singh, which is somehow you want to see as a viewer. You don't want to see a same face, any big face, but he's not performing. Then you have to be critical about his performances as well, right? It could be captain, anyone. A lot of times what happen if you drop some big player, especially in the country like India or in Australia, because the game is so big, suddenly there's a huss around that why we are selecting this player. We have a big player already in the back. Why we want this? But this is not how the game works.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That sort of goes back into that last question as well. I mean, the West Indies T20 side is absolutely impeccable. And yes, there probably is some players, or most of the players, who can play in the test side, but some, they're giving new talent a go and they're just seeing what they can do against the best, one of the best test bowling attacks in the world. And in terms of Steve Smith as, an opener in now test matches and previously T20s, it's a strange one. At the time, I sort of liked the idea. I really, really did. And I think, again, it's a challenge that I think he set for himself, that he thinks he needs, and I think, selectors thinks he needs as well, because it feels like a long time ago now where I think Steve Smith was at his very best. It feels so long ago. And watching him back recently in the last couple of years, nothing looked quite right. He doesn't look as fluent. He's not striking the ball as well. His runs aren't looking as punctual as, the Steve Smith of old would. But I don't think that's anything to do with his technique, as though his technique's all personal. He is really in a rough spot for form, and I mean, he's getting a challenge opening the batting, but I think it was unlucky for the likes of someone like Cam Bancroft, for example, who batted for Australia, opened the batting for Australia before, averaging
Matt Renshaw
upwards
as
of
well.
55. Yeah, Matt Renshaw as well. Yeah, correct. Cam Bancroft and Matt Renshaw. I mean, Bancroft's averaging upwards of 55 in the past Sheffield Shield series, and Matt Renshaw as well. I mean, Renshaw was selected in the squad, but very, very unlikely he's going to play a game. But it's going to be interesting if Smith does fail for this next West Indies test and how they go about that. I mean, they've promoted Cam Green up to 4 as well, and there was even chat about him opening the batting. And I mean, I really didn't like the idea of Cam Green opening the batting. He's always a bit iffy and poking at the ball early in his innings, but once he gets going, he gets a bit of confidence up. He's good as anyone in the short format of the game. But obviously, he's had some time out now with Mitch Marsh coming in, so he's lost his spot. But now with Mitch Marsh and Cam Green playing, he's got an opportunity up at 4, and I hope it goes really well for him. But I was even thinking, with the likes of David Warner retiring, you need that. Obviously, you got Khawaja at the other end, who's can well and play his shots, faces a lot of balls, tires out the bowlers, and plays his shots when it's there. But David Warner is, especially of recent years, he's been attacking from ball one, usually striking out over 70 or 80, even sometimes 100. So I was even up for the idea to give Mitch Marsh the opening spot for Australia. But then again, they stuck with Steve. Yes, correct.
I think it all depends, right? Because obviously Steve Smith, as we know, how good he is in the Test cricket, he was, I would say, because like you mentioned, that few years, especially last 2 years, is Steve Smith is somehow struggling with his form, but he's somehow pushing himself a lot of times, right? He's around how much, 33, 34 right now?
I think still Steve Smith still has some good cricket left in him. He's just trying to find it, and I mean that's what he's going to try and do as an opener. I mean, in that first test against the West Indies, for the first, I mean, the West Indies aren't the bowling attack they used to be, but I think he faced about 30 odd balls, scored only about 15 or 10 runs. But in those 30 balls, he looked very solid and probably the most comfortable I've seen him. He's been recently finding it hard to get off the mark, and those first 10 runs are coming off 40 or 50 balls, and he's having those dry patches. So I think when Steve Smith's having freedom up the order and sort of playing that replica to a David Warner role, I think he'll eventually find his best cricket in definitely the longer format of the game. And, when Steve Smith comes and plays for the Sydney Sixers in the Big Bash, he's gone extremely well open the batting. It's just come out of nowhere, and look, you never know. I think Australia does have a few options to open the batting in all formats of the game coming through. I mean, one person I do want to see open the batting, at least in the T20s coming up, is Matt Short from the Adelaide Strikers. He's an absolute star. Had the most runs in the Big Bash for this season.
He bowls as well, right?
He's played a couple of games.
Well. He bowls as well. I think he's all rounder.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can bowl. He can bowl some part-time off spin as well, whether that's opening the bowling or through the middle order. So I think he's a cricketer that Australia need to keep persisting with at the top of the order, and I think he'll do really well for them.
Yeah. So do you think, let's jump into the World Cup, because obviously it's just around the corner. Who is going to be a one player that you think can replace Steve Smith in T20 eyes for the T20 World Cup?
Yeah, Australian player in T20 internationals.
Yeah.
I think, we've got young, he's probably only 2021 now, Jake Fraser-McGurk. He's just been called up to the T20 international squad for the upcoming series. He's going to be an absolute star. He hit 100 off, I think it was 28 balls in the Sheffield Shield. So that's even a 4-day game. He hit that and is absolutely insane. He's come out of nowhere. He's always had the talent, but finally it's just clicking. And hopefully he gets some players just need, opportunity against the best bowling attack, all the freedom in the world, there's no pressure, and they'll do really well. So I think he's definitely one for the future. But as of right now, I think the opening pair that Australia should go with, I think it's all guns blazing at the top. Mitch Marsh and Matt Short should be the openers for the T20s for Australia, I think.
I was just having a conversation with someone and he said to me, dude, these guys actually won World Cup every single Tuesday. Yeah, especially you have a monopoly in the World Cup. You know this, right?
Yeah.
It comes to World Cup. Yeah, man. I think, 6 World Cups now, okay, in the 50 overs. I was reading about the Australianism. I don't know. I think you know about Australianism topic, right? Article on Australia that how people play sports. It's a sporting country, and a lot of people are actually involved in a lot of sports from early age. What is it with Australia? What do you think with Australia that they know how to perform in the knockout matches? Just give me a frame that how they prepare and every sort of things from the outside if you see.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that all Australian cricketers these days. So I think the one thing they're told is just to be adaptable, and you have to be adaptable to play all 3 formats. I think the main goal for any young Australian coming up is to still play Test cricket for Australia. That's whether you're mainly a T20 player or an ODI player. The main goal and the main thing for any young player, I think, for Australians is play Test cricket for Australia. That's the ultimate sort of pinnacle. I mean, recently you've seen all these stars from all over the world going and playing T20 leagues over Test matches and ODIs for their country, which I think is it's pretty silly. Even though the money, it's all well and good, and it's just strange that I think that money is persuading players. It must be quite a bit of a difference to persuade players from playing for their country and going and playing in local T20 league around the world. So, but I think, it's been, I think, pretty set in stone by most of the Australian Test players now, how important and how great it is playing Test matches for Australia. I mean, you got Stark and Cummins back in the IPL this year, but they haven't been in the IPL for plenty of years now.
Yeah.
Because they're prioritising playing Test cricket for Australia. And I think that's with most Australians, but it's been very strange seeing players from all over the world playing T20s instead of playing for their country where they're struggling, such as West Indies or South Africa.
Yeah. You talk about Test cricket. Everyone wants to play Test cricket, but to play Test cricket, you need finances, right? Because it's something which is, that why South Africa is playing just 2 Test matches, or why West Indies is playing 2 Test matches, because they don't have finances to back up the Test cricket. What do you think is going to be for the future for the Test cricket and the bilateral ODI series? Because this is something which, as an Australian country, I can easily say that, you want to see a lot of cricket. But for the other countries, especially the countries which don't have a lot of money, is struggling when it comes to Test cricket and bilateral ODI series.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do think Test cricket is slipping away a little bit. Personally, I love Test cricket. It's my favourite form of cricket by far. I mean, T20s and ODIs are very entertaining. But to think that Test cricket and the match could be won or lost, where it comes down to the final day or the final over or even the final ball, that is just the pinnacle of Test cricket. And in Test cricket, you've got to work hard for wickets, work hard for runs. Not saying you don't work hard for wickets or runs in T20s or ODIs, but I do think that Test cricket is, sort of what cricket was made for and was what it was all about. I mean, all these other sports are very, very high-paced and, action-packed and entertaining, where Test cricket is, I think, sort of was made for the opposite of that. It's more out of mental and brute strength out of every individual to get your team across the line, because a couple little, ups and downs throughout the game could make a huge difference or all over the 5 days. But yeah, it's disappointing seeing, countries not being able to afford playing, a couple test matches here and there. I mean, ODIs and T20s, I think, are just getting played. They're just getting played so much, and it's unfortunately overtaking Test cricket, which I see why it has. It's an entertaining game. I mean, you probably get more fans to the game as well. It's easier to watch for a fan who's never watched cricket before. I mean, if you're showing someone who's never watched cricket before, you're probably showing them a T20 or a one day. If you're not showing them a Test match, because I'll think, this is boring. Why am I watching this? I think Test cricket is the best form of cricket.
Sad to see, because obviously, as a cricket viewer, I really want to see a lot of Test cricket, like you mentioned. But because if you see the public over there, public wants a fast cricket. Maybe this is the reason the leagues around the world get a lot of popularity.
Yeah, I think, Australia and India and teams like that, England, definitely need to start pushing their cases and just being, a helpful nation towards these other countries. I mean, it's, West Indies, coming over here to play Test cricket, and, Test cricket's well and good, but in the back of your head, you're sort of like, I sort of want this to be a bit more, like of a contest. Not saying it's not a contest, because West Indies actually very well showed up in the first Test match. And
I saw this.
You had players from West Indies who showed them, like Shamar Joseph
Joseph,
and Pakistan came over as well.
Yeah.
Amir Jamal. These players have come out of nowhere and have showcased themselves on the biggest stage in Test match cricket. So that is well and great. So if it's all opportunity for, countries like South Africa and West Indies to have their players show what they've got and build that Test nation again.
If you really want to know what is happiness, go and ask Shamar Joseph. Getting a Steve Smith wicket on his first ball in the debut is something like icing on the cake, right? You have a cake as a debut bowler.
Oh yeah.
And getting Steve Smith is like just icing on the cake.
It was probably one of the biggest smiles I've ever seen on a person.
And 5 wickets, man. 5 wickets on debut. Fascinating cricketer. And he made a lot of runs as well. I just saw in the first innings as well, the 36-37 runs contribution he gave.
Yeah, batting down the order as well. Aussies always have trouble getting the tail enders out, so if you're down the order, there's always a chance to make runs.
He's a champion. Do you think West Indies is going to be a dark horse this time for the T20 World Cup, upcoming T20 World Cup in USA?
Yeah, of course. Definitely. I mean, the West Indies are always dark horses, and I think any format, especially in the last couple of years, I mean, obviously they've dropped off a bit, but they've got so much talent there, and it just all has to fire for a couple of games, and then the games that matters. I mean, you got your usual people like Jason Holder, who plays mostly all 3 formats, obviously not in the Test matches this time, but he is a great contributor for West Indies cricket, and you got players around him. I love Carl Mayers, how he goes about it. Great batsman, and can bowl a bit as well. Shea Hope and a lot of other young quicks, Azari Joseph, that he's been given a lot of opportunity, and it's only time for him to strike for the upcoming T20 World Cup, I think.
Going to be fine. But tell me one thing. I'm sure Pat Cummins is going to be your... Pat Cummins or Matthew Wade? What do you think is going to be your T20 World Cup cap this time?
This time, I think, I just saw recently that I'm not sure what it was, maybe it was for the T20s against the West Indies, but Mitch Marsh was named skipper.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that will change for the World Cup. But I mean, honestly, if I'm picking my best T20 bowling lineup, I'm really not sure if Pat Cummins is going to be in there for sure. And I mean, you got Josh Inglis hitting a lot of runs in the shorter format as well. I mean, Alex Carey hasn't played a lot of format cricket as the keeper, and Ben McDermott is one coming up as well. So I think Wade may be in the squad, but I think if Inglis is making runs, he'll get the nod over him. So I could even see Mitch Marsh captaining that side.
Just going through the list. A lot of players legends are from the Western Australia. Yeah. Dennis Lillee, fast bowlers.
Yeah, Western Australia.
Yeah. Very cool, man. I think Bruce Reid, all the fast bowlers are from the Western Australia, right? Just.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Western Australia had a great couple years and decades there in the fast bowling and even batting cartel. But now you've got Nathan Lyon, Hazelwood, and Stark, all from New South Wales. So you get a lot of up and coming bowlers from New South Wales as well, and Steve Smith is also from there, so you get a lot of young talent coming out of Sydney.
I think, if I'm not wrong, Ricky Ponting is from Tasmania, and Tasmania is around Western Australia.
Yeah, Ponting's from Tasmania. Yeah. It's another part. So it's a weird thing. Tasmania is a weird thing here in Australia. It is a part of Australia, but if you look on the global map, it's actually not connected to Australia. It's a little bit down in the bottom right of Australia.
Okay.
You've got some ocean, and then there's a little triangle-shaped place, and that's Tasmania down there. I heard it's a lovely place, but myself, I've never been. Oh, yeah.
I think Justin Langer as well, from the Western Australia. The list is long, man. The list is long.
Oh, we could go all day, I think, listing WA cricket players.
Yeah. The list is so long. Tell me one thing. I just want to ask you, Pat Cummins. You said you're a little critical as well about his performances as far as the limited over is concerned, right? In T20 specifically. How do we see him?
Oh, I think he's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, you don't often see... I mean, everyone was a bit critical at the start that having a bowler as the test captain, especially, and having, Pat Cummins' workload is so high. He's that, late middle order batsman as well. He's, opening the bowling first chain in, test cricket and ODIs and even T20s when he plays as well. He's got a lot going on, Pat Cummins, but I think what he's done for test cricket, he's made Australia the pinnacle side for test cricket in recent years. I think everyone respects Pat Cummins and the way he goes about his cricket, and you can just see that the Australian cricket team's just having so much fun, and they're all trying to play their best cricket for Australia. And I think everyone in Australia is behind Pat Cummins. I don't know many people who have enemies, including Pat Cummins, but I think Pat Cummins has been fantastic for Australian cricket.
He's a gentleman throughout the years I saw, And this is really about Australian players. Like you mentioned about test cricket, not just test cricket. They know that what big is coming. It doesn't matter how they perform. The best thing is just go and prepare for this. If for example, if T20 World Cup is coming, they were all set for the IPL thing, the BBL.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think Australia is prepared very well. I mean, Australia is one of those blessed nations who get a lot of preparation for Test cricket, ODI cricket, and T20 cricket. There's not often an Australian side goes underprepared for when they face anyone in international cricket. I mean, there's all the leagues going around, T20 leagues, and players playing games for the Prime Minister's 11 as well.
Yeah,
it's all well and good here in Australia, and I think the Australian cricket team's very lucky with how they prepare, and I think everyone in and around the group is on the same page and ready to prepare for whatever the next battle is.
So I just have last few questions for you. Tell me one thing. Except BBL, do you play any T20 domestic format games as well?
It is only the BBL here in Australia, but I know the IPL is quite big here in Australia as well. All us Australians get around that, and recently I've been getting around the South African T20 League. I think that's great what they're doing over there. So entertaining, and I think these T20 cricket games, they have to be entertaining, whether that's how the wicket is put and or what stadium they play at and how the players go about it. I think the entertainment factor in T20 cricket is really what gets it up and over the edge over one days and test matches. But yeah, over here in Australia, Big Bash is the only real T20 league that's been getting underway, and I know the final's actually on tonight. So the Strikers and the Sydney Sixers play in the Big Bash Grand Final. So I think there'll be quite a few viewers watching that one.
Going to be fun for sure. I just want to go and watch this game, man. So I have one thing for you. How do you see India and Australia in the upcoming World Gavaskar Trophy? I mean, it's so early to say this, but if you see the whole sort of a section, last two times we can take this pride that we won, right? Last two times. And how you see this?
Yeah, well, except for the Ashes, India-Australia is one of the most entertaining and fierce battles over recent years, especially in the test matches. I think everyone tunes in, no matter where that is. I mean, that last series in India and in Australia as well, it's always competitive. It's never usually one-sided. It's always competitive with bat and ball. I mean, Virat Kohli, I love the way he goes about the game, and he's exactly what Test cricket is about. He's fierce and he's brute and he wants to win, which I think Australia is that sort of side, and most Australian people are. They're always up for the challenge, and that's what I think the Indian cricket team is as well. All players who play are up for the challenge, and they all want to win. So I think it's going to be an interesting series. I mean, it's always interesting. It's always interesting with selections, especially over in India, the amount of spinners each team bowls as well, and of course Australia trying out some new spinners as well with Matt Kuhneman and Todd Murphy getting a run as well. So it's good to see some new talent coming through too.
It's just fascinating because I can talk a lot. I mean, when it comes to cricket.
I mean, cricket is one of the or is the pinnacle in Australian sport. I mean, Aussie rules is great and all, but cricket is. I mean, every summer of cricket you're playing backyard cricket. It's absolutely fantastic sport. I mean, cricket. I play cricket myself, and it's the biggest roller coaster of life that anyone can give. So if you can play cricket, you can go through anything in life. I think cricket is full of ups and downs, and I mean, Australia they've been through plenty of ups and downs in Test cricket, ODI cricket, and everything with some of the scandals and that has been going on. But cricket in Australia, I mean, everyone or most people support it over here as well. Especially in Perth, the Perth Scorchers are a very successful BBL side, and especially WA as well. WA has been blessed with a very good cricketing side throughout a number of years, so they're always doing well. And I think when a team's doing well, much like the Australian cricket team, everyone gets around it. So cricket in Australia is something everyone's looking out for.
Yeah. What is, according to you, what is India and South Africa is doing wrong as far as knockouts were concerned?
Well, I think cricket is one of the strangest games in the world, and no matter how many games you play, no matter how good a form you are in as an individual or as a team, there's going to be days we have bad days, but you just got to make sure that when you have a bad day, there's always another person to step up in their absence. And especially in those big games as well, you always need to create a team and a morale around the team that if you fail or if someone fails, that's okay, because I know this person's going to stand up, and if they fail, this person's going to stand up. So I think cricket is all about having trust in your teammates and all having great relationships and trusting one another that if you're not going to get it done, I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to be the one to win this game. So I think India and South Africa, they're well and good cricket teams, and they're always going to be up and around in the world rankings, no matter what format they play in. But yeah, cricket is definitely one of those games where you need trust in your teammates, and you definitely need a good selection and good variety of players to back you up.
Yeah. I think that's true. And
do
you see the luck factor as well?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Honestly, luck is a big factor in cricket. But I think the luck does come to the players who are the best and who deserve, and that players that deserve that luck. I mean, you always see the best batsmen get dropped plenty of times. And then for example, when I go out to bat, I'm getting one-handed screamers and all that come off me. But when the number 3 who hits hundreds every week comes out to bat, he gets dropped 5 or 6 times. So, yes, luck is definitely a factor in any form of cricket. And I think it's one of those things, if you take your chances or if that luck presents itself, if you take it, it can switch the game on its head, and it's something that those good sides take their chances of, and it can flip games, and eventually it can win games for teams. It all is a process, though.
So the last question before I wrap up: T20 World Cup is coming, and this year in USA and West Indies. And obviously, I just want to ask you 2 questions. Okay, it's a chain question, right? Who is going to be your top 4? And not only this, I just want to know one more thing from you. Who is going to be your one team which you think that, okay, this team is something dark horse, apart from West Indies? I'm talking about Nepal, Oman, and every sort of things. Who is going to be one team do you think that, okay, this is team which we can look up to as well?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll start with that question with the up-and-coming teams. I've always liked Afghanistan's team. I mean, I don't know if you call them an up-and-coming team anymore because they've shown they can beat the best of teams. And in that last ODI World Cup, there was games where they were very, very close to making the finals. And honestly, I think they should have. They've got a fantastic side and so many game winners in their side where I think they can go all the way. And in T20 cricket, anything can happen. So I think they're a team to look out for, if you can call them an up-and-coming team as well. Also, so for my top 4, I've got to put Australia in there. I think they do have some depth in their squad, I think, and they've got some big firing hitters to come their way. So I think if Australia goes all guns blazing at the top of the order, and I think our bowling attack is well and capable to holding teams under an amount that we put out there with the bat. So I think Australia will definitely be in that top 4. England as well. They sort of go about that same principle with all guns blazing at the top. I mean, they're an absolute star-studded team. Unfortunately,
in India, Phil Salt just got unsold, right? Hell that you're not selecting the Phil Salt. He's one of the best T20 player I have seen in my life right now. I think he's going to be X factor when it comes to England for this T20 World Cup.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. England, I mean, they'll be disappointed after their ODI World Cup performance, but guys like you just said, Phil Salt and even Will Jacks, I've been watching the South African League. England have been playing a lot of T20 cricket as a side lately and as individuals as well in these other leagues. So I think they'll definitely be up there. They've got the batting. They can bat all the way down to, number 8 or 9 with pure batsmen. So they've got a batting lineup that can destroy the whole world, I think, as well. India, obviously, they've got a star-studded lineup. I think they're a fantastic all-round team. They've got great depth as well. Their strike bowlers, Bumrah, Jadeja, I think, is an absolute star, one of the best in the world with bat and ball. I think they've got so many match winners in their team, so I think they will be in that top 4 as well. And in that last spot, I'm going to go with, probably got to be out of Pakistan and South Africa. I think South Africa do have the potential to go.
Why not New Zealand?
Into that.
Why not Kiwis? Why not Kiwis?
Yes, I think so too. I honestly forgot about the Kiwis. I really love Daryl Mitchell's game. I think he is one of the best T20 and ODI batsmen in the whole world.
Glenn Phillips as well.
Yeah, Glenn Phillips as well. They're 2 match winners that I think can definitely do it. And they're all fighting it out for those top 4 spots. So it's interesting. I honestly did forget about New Zealand, which is probably why they're so much of a duck, because people forget how good they are. And they've honestly been good for such a long time now, and I don't think they get enough credit for what they do. And I think out of those teams, it's a tough one. I'm going to go with South Africa as my number 4 team, making it in there, I think.
Yeah. You mentioned Afghanistan, right? But Afghanistan is now a test team as well. So one associate team, if you think.
These teams coming up, well, we got Nepal's always always a dark horse coming up there as an associate team. Oman and Namibia as well. I mean, the US has been showing out lately in the games that they've played with the opportunities they got, as well as Canada. So there's a lot of associate teams coming up the ranks. I really like
Nepal. Because Nepal is something which, dude, they have a lot of players who can actually go and, like you mentioned, the all guns blazing and hit, and they have a lot of bowlers as well who can actually defend the target. In all the long formats, in any short formats as well, you want batters never going to win the tournaments. It's the bowlers who's going to win the tournaments for you, right? And Nepal is somehow, I think, they have all bases covered.
Yes, that's completely right. I completely agree with you there. So, based on that, Aman, you have decided Nepal for me, and I am very grateful for your decision, because I reckon I was going to be here for at least a couple more minutes trying to decide who I wanted to pick.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Regan. I really appreciate that you took the time for this conversation with me, right?
Oh, it's been a fantastic chat. I've really enjoyed giving some insight to you on Australian cricket. I love talking about my country, and especially in the game I love and the sport that all Aussies love as well in cricket. And it's really interesting to see some comparisons between, the Australian domestic cricket especially and Indian domestic cricket, and also the players, preferring T20s over Test matches. Well, I think it's always going to spark a conversation. I'm very grateful we got to talk with you today.
There's a lot to learn from these teams who actually know how to win big matches. And I'm really looking forward for the India versus Australia T20 World Cup final, which is actually so early to say this, right?
Yeah, it's cricket. Cricket is one of the best games in the world, and it's great to see all countries come together and talk about our favourite sport and how our nations go about it. And I think, we all work with one another to learning more about the sport and how each nation goes about it. So it's been a great opportunity to talk.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Regan, for this. And you have a game as well. So all the best, man, for the basketball game today.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I'll go shoot some buckets for you.
Cheers, man. Thank you so much, mate. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time, bro. Thank you.